Hamlin Towns in Brunswick, by famous Hanover City. The river Weser, deep and wide, washes its wall on the southern side. A pleasanter spot you never spied, but when begins my ditty, almost 500 years ago. To see the townsfolk suffer so, vermin was pity. Rats, they fought the dogs and killed the cats and bit the babies in the cradles, and ate the cheeses from the vats and make the soup from the cooks' ladles. Split open the kegs of salted sprats, made nests for the men's Sunday hats, and even spoiled the women's chats by drowning out their speaking and shrieking and squeaking, 50 different sharps and flats. At last the people in a body to the town came flocking. 'Tis clear, cried they, our mares are naughty. And as for our corporation, shocking, to think we buy gowns lined with ermine, for dolts who can't or won't determine what's best to rid us of our vermin. You hope because you're old and obese to find the furry civic robe's ease. Rouse up, sirs, give your brains a racking, find remedy we are lacking, or sure as fate will send you packing. At this Samaritan corporation quaked the mighty consternation. An hour they sat in council, at length the mayor broke silence, for a gilder eyed my ermine gown sell. I wish I were a mile hence. It's easy to bid one rack one's brain. I'm sure my poor head aches again. I scratch it so, but all in vain. Oh, for a trap, a trap, a trap. Just as he said this, what should hap? At the chamber door, but a gentle tap. Bless us, cried the mayor, what's that? With the corporation as he sat, looking little through wondrous fat. Nor brighter were his eyes, nor moister than too long opened oyster, save when at noon his paunch grew mutinous, for a plate of turtle green and glutinous, only a scraping of shoes on the mat. Anything like the sound of a rat makes my heart go pit-a-pat. Come in, cried the mayor, looking bigger, and in did come the strangest figure. His long clear coat from heel to head was half yellow and half red, and he himself was tall and thin, with sharp blue eyes each like a pin, and light loose hair and swarthy skin, nor tuft of hair on cheek nor beard on chin. The lips were smile went out and in, there was no guessing his kin of kin, and nobody could enough admire this tall man in his quaint attire. Quoth one, it's as my great-grandsire, starting up at the trump of doom's tone, had walked this way from his painted tombstone. He advanced towards the council table. Please, your honor, said he, I am able, by means of secret charm to draw, all the creatures living beneath the sun, that crawl or swim or fly or run, after me so as you never saw, and I chiefly use my charm on creatures that to people harm, the mole and toad and Newton viper, and people call me the Pied Piper, and here they notice round his neck a scarf of red and yellow stripe, to match with his coat of self-same check, and that scarf's end hung a pipe, and his fingers, they noticed, were ever straying, as if impatient to be playing upon this pipe, as low it dangled, over his vesture so all fangled. Yes, said he, Pied Piper as I am, in Tartary I fred the cam, last June from his huge swarms of gnats. I used major that I am, of a monstrous brood of vampire bats. And as for what your brain bewilders, if I rid your town of rats, will you give me 1,000 guilders? 50,000 was the exclamation of an astonished mayor and corporation. Into the street the piper stepped, smiling first a little smile, as if he knew where magic slept, and his quiet piped the while. Like a musical adept, below his pipe his lips would wrinkle, and green and blue his sharp eyes twinkled, like a candle flame where salt is sprinkled. And ere 3 shrill notes the pipe uttered, he heard as if an army muttered, and a muttering grew to a grumbling, and a grumbling grew to a mighty rumbling, and out of the houses came the rats tumbling. Great rats, small rats, lean rats, brawny rats, brown rats, black rats, gray rats, tawny rats, grave old plotters, gay young friskers, fathers, mothers, uncles, cousins, cocking tails and pricking whiskers, families by tens and dozens, brothers, sisters, husbands, wives, followed the Pied Piper for their lives. From street to street he piped advancing, and step for step they followed dancing, until they came to the river Weser, wherein all plunged and perished, save one who stout as Julius Caesar swam across and lived to carry, as he the manuscript he cherished, to Ratland home his commentary, which was, at first shrill notes of the pipe, I heard a sound as of scraping tripe, and putting apples wondrous ripe, into the sided presses gripe, and it seemed as if, and moving away at pickle tub boards, and leaving a jar of conserve cupboards, and a drawing the cords of train oil fast, and a breaking the hoops of butter cast, and it seemed as if a voice, sweeter far than by harp or by psaltery is breathed, called out, "O rats, rejoice! The world is grown to a vast dry saltery. So munch on, crunch on, take your nunch on, breakfast, supper, dinner, lunch on, and just as a bulky sugar punch on, already staved like a great sun shone, gracious, scarce an inch before me, just as me thought it said, come bore me, I found the Weser rolling over me. You should have heard the Hamlin people ring the bells so they rocked the steeple. Go, cried the mayor, get long poles, poke out the nests and block up the holes. Consult with carpenters and builders, and leave in our town not even a trace of the rats, when suddenly up the face of the piper perked in the marketplace. The first, if you please, my 1,000 guilders. 1,000 guilders! The mayor looked blue, so did the corporation too, for council dinners made were havoc, with claret, sell, filled the draw flock, and half the money would replenish their cellar's biggest butt of Rhenish, to pay this sum to a wondering fellow, with gypsy coat of red and yellow. Besides, quoth the mayor with a knowing wink, our business was done at the river's brink. We saw with our eyes the vermin sink, and what's dead can't come to life, I think. So friend, we're not folks to shrink from our duty of giving you something to drink, and a matter of money to put in your coat. But as for the guilders, what we spoke of them, as you well know, wasn't joke. Besides, our losses have made us thrifty. 1,000 guilders, come, take 50. The piper's face fell and he cried, no trifling, I can't wait beside. I promise a visit by dinner time to Baghdad, and accept the prime of the head cook's pottage. All he's rich in, for having left in the Caleb's kitchen, of a nest of scorpions no survivor. With him I prove no bargain driver, with you don't think I'll bait a stiver, and folks who put me in a passion may find me pipe after another fashion. How, cried the mayor, do you think I brook, being worse treated than a cook, insulted by a ribald, with idle pipe and vesture piebald? Threaten us, fellow, do your worst, blow your pipe there till you burst. Once more he stepped into the street, and to his lips again laid his long pipe a smooth straight cane. That ere he blew 3 notes, such sweet soft notes as yet musicians cunning never gave the enraptured air. There was a rustling that seemed like a bustling of merry crowds jesting, a hitching and hustling. Small feet were pattering, wooden shoes clattering, little hands clapping and little tongues chattering, and like foals in a farmyard with barley is scattering, out came the children running, all the little boys and girls, with rosy cheeks and flaxen curls, and sparkling eyes and teeth like pearls. Tripping and skipping ran merrily after, the wonderful music with shouting and laughter. The mayor was dumb and the council stood as if they were changed into blocks of wood, unable to move a step or cry to the children merrily skipping by, could only follow with an eye that joyous crowd of the piper's back, and how the mayor was on the rack, and the wretched council's bosoms beat as the piper turned from the high street to where the western rolled its waters, right in the way of their sons and daughters. However, he turned from south to west into Coppleburg Hill his steps addressed, and after him the children pressed, great was the joy in every breast. He never crossed the mighty top, he's forced to let the piping drop, and we shall see our children stop. When lo, they reached the mountainside, a wondrous portal opened wide, as if a cavern was suddenly hollowed. The piper advanced and the children followed, and when all were in the very last, the door in the mountainside shut fast. Did I say all? No one was lame, and could not dance the whole of the way. And in after years, if you'd blame his sadness, it was used to say, it's dull in our town since my playmates left. I can't forget that I'm bereft of all the pleasant sights they see, which the piper also promised me. For he led us, he said, to a joyous land, joining the town in jest at hand, where waters gushed and fruit trees grew, and flowers put forth a fairer hue, and everything was strange and new. The sparrow was bright and the peacock here, and their dogs outran our fellow deer, and honeybees had lost their stings, and horses were born with eagle's wings, and just as I became assured, my lame foot would be speedily cured. The music stopped and I stood still, and found myself outside the hill, left behind against my will, to go now limping as before, and never hear of that country more. Alas, alas, for Hamlin, the kingdom many a burgher's paid, a text which says at heaven's gate, opes to the rich at its easy rate, as the needle's eye takes a camel in. The mayor sent east, west, north, and south, to offer the piper by word of mouth, wherever it was men's lot to find him, silver and gold to his heart's content, if only he returned the way he went, and bring the children behind him. But when they saw 'twas lost endeavor, and piper and dancers were gone forever, they made a decree that lawyers never should think their records dated duly, if after the date of the month and year, these words do not as well appear. And so long after what happened here, on the 22nd of July, 1376, and better in memory to fix the place of the children's last retreat, they called it the Piper Street, where anyone playing pipe or tabor was sure for his future to lose his labor, where suffered they hostelry or tavern, to shock with mirth a street so solemn, and opposite the place of the cavern, they wrote the story on a column, and on a great church window painted, the same to make the world acquainted, how their children were stolen away, and there it stands this very day. And I must not omit to say that in Transylvania there's a tribe of alien people who ascribe the way and dress their way and dress, of which their neighbors lay such stress, to their fathers and mothers having risen out of some subterranean prison, into which they were trepanned a long time ago in a mighty band, out of Hamlin town in Brunswick land, but how or why they don't understand. Hey, thanks for watching. Have a great morning.